And you mutants are dangerous.
You're not going anywhere.
This place takes your greatest fear and makes you live through it. Roberto? Sam? Ileana? Danny? Rain?
I was 13. I thought it was a dream. I just lost control.
Sam?
I started panicking. People got hurt.
Roberto?
My girlfriend had burned her.
Ileana?
I killed 18 men, one by one. This isn't a hospital, it's a cage.
It's important we find out your power so we can help you get better.
I saw something I don't think she wanted me to see. I don't think we're here to get better. We can get out of this together.
This place is designed to keep us inside.
He's right. It's magic.
So am I.
That was so hot.
The New Mutants, rated PG-13. And on July 23rd, don't miss the New Mutants panel at Comic-Con at Home.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my Marvel New Mutants Comic-Con trailer video and X-Men Easter eggs. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We'll do a new Amazon giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know what you want them to do with the New Mutants characters in the MCU after the events of this movie. There's been a lot of talk of sequels, so I'll explain what's going on because of the way this movie came together and the way they're releasing it later this year. That's right, we might actually get a chance to see this movie after the many different release dates, even though you probably noticed that there is no actual release date during the trailer that they just dropped. They added a bunch of new scenes, a bunch of Ileana being a total badass with her powers, a bunch of the limbo dimension, and some of the other villains. So if you're not sure who the actual villains of this trailer are, because there's a lot of different characters that they wind up fighting during this footage, for the most part, the main villain of the movie is Demon Bear. He's basically the supernatural entity that consumes the souls and magic essence of other people. The director of the movie referred to the film as being like a rubber room horror film, which is where the participants, the people in the movie, don't realize what's real and what's fake. So it's kind of implied that if Demon Bear is going to be the main villain, he's using this sort of weird reality alternate space to trick them so that he can slowly consume their souls. This is where Ileana and the Limbo Dimension are really important, really big X-Men comic book Easter eggs. So if you didn't know, Ileana Rasputin, aka Magic, is actually the younger sister of Colossus, mainstream X-Men team member, also big character during the Deadpool movies. So because this is coming from the Fox Marvel universe, you could think of her as the younger sister of this version of Colossus from the Deadpool movies, but because Marvel has all those characters back, it's sort of up to them how they want to connect this to the MCU later on if they bring these characters back in a new project.
I said no touching.
We know they're doing Deadpool 3, so it's actually pretty easy for them to do that in the future if Anna Taylor-Joy wants to come back as Magic inside the MCU, which sounds like she does. The other villains that you see her slicing up with her magic blade are called the Smiley Men. They're not necessarily big comic book characters, but it just seems like they're other apparitions that are being controlled by Demon Bear to manipulate them to do what he wants them to do. When Celia Reyes is talking about how this place turns your worst fears against you, makes you fight them, that also might be Demon Bear manipulating Danny Moonstar's powers, turning them against her, which isn't quite what it sounds like. She can actually create illusions based on people's nightmares and use them against them. So that might be a little what's going on here. But because we're talking about multiverse, multiple dimensions, places like Limbo, it's sort of like them turning fake things into reality. You get a little bit more of Cannonball's powers. That's Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things. You probably recognize him immediately. There's a bunch more scenes with Roberto da Costa using his sunspot powers. It actually looks like they polished the special effects for his character too. This is a little bit more comic book accurate. He acts as sort of like a solar battery. He can absorb solar radiation and give it off as plasma energy. When he's doing that, his body just looks black like this. You all know about Ileana Rasputin. She's probably one of the most badass characters that they have during this. That's why she's in so much of the trailers, just going crazy on everyone. Then you all know Maisie Williams, who's playing Wolfsbane. Pretty self-explanatory powers. She turns into a giant werewolf. Make all the direwolf Game of Thrones jokes that you want. Coming from Game of Thrones, the deep connection that the Starks have with their direwolves, now she actually literally turns into a wolf during a Marvel movie. The director also confirmed my theory about some of the alternate post-credit scenes and deleted scenes that they had filmed previously. So when the whole Fox-Disney deal was going down and they were actually still making the movie, originally they were going to have a big Mr. Sinister post-credit scene. It was going to be John Hamm, believe it or not, and it was actually going to be connected to that Mr. Sinister post-credit scene from X-Men Apocalypse, which was also connected to the Gambit movie that Channing Tatum was going to make once upon a time. Remember when Gambit was going to get his own solo movie? After that, they changed the New Mutants post-credit scene, and it wound up being more of a Hellfire Club scene. So Antonio Banderas came in and filmed some scenes. The director confirmed that he was going to play Roberto da Costa's father, who was going to be a member of the Hellfire Club, and the Hellfire Club was going to become the main villains of the New Mutants trilogy that he had planned. There were going to be sequels to this movie. He did say he was hoping that Marvel would still allow him to make them because they have so many big X-Men characters that are going to be around during Marvel Phase 5. It'd also be really easy to do those stories as a Disney Plus series, like New Mutants as a Disney Plus series. Right now, based on Marvel's timeline and when they're introducing big X-Men characters in Marvel Phase 5, it doesn't sound like they're actually going to start doing big X-Men Disney Plus series until they do them in a movie, and that's not going to be till at least 2023 to 2025. But we do have a bunch of big X-Men stuff coming up later this year, especially in the WandaVision series. So the WandaVision X-Men stuff that they're introducing is just really through the multiverse, alternate realities, and sort of folding in some of the X-Men characters. Obviously, some of the other X-Men characters will debut in different ways. But as a lot of you guessed, Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness, the multiverse itself, is a really easy way to integrate other X-Men characters. They're getting really twisty with the way they're doing it in the WandaVision series with Scarlet Witch, though, because it involves her children from the comics, and I've already done a couple videos on the backstory behind her twins in the comics and how the MCU is sort of changing a couple things to do them during the WandaVision series and how they might be integrated into future Young Avengers projects because her twins eventually do grow up to become Young Avengers. But the other big X-Men MCU talk that's been happening recently, aside from people just getting really excited about Wolverine and new versions of the characters, is Black Panther 2, just because so much stuff is going on with mutants. So just think about it as a broader idea. We already know about the Namor Easter egg from Avengers Endgame and from Nick Fury's map way back in Iron Man 2. I just did a video recently about Janelle Monáe, who said that she actually had a meeting with Marvel and Ryan Coogler about Black Panther 2 and about playing the Storm character during that. So it does sound like, regardless of who shows up during that movie, Marvel is seriously thinking about doing mainstream X-Men characters around Black Panther 2. You probably heard the Russos talking about X-Men in the past year since Avengers Endgame came out, people wanting them to know if they'd ever come back to direct another Marvel movie.
My prized possessions is Incredible Hulk 181. It's the introduction of Wolverine. I think he'd be an amazing character to introduce into this world. The X-Men, the Burn Run from the 90s was a big book for me.
They implied that they would come back to do some Wolverine or an X-Men movie at some point. Then hopefully they'll stick around for Avengers versus X-Men down the road. I'm totally happy with them coming back as much as they want, but they have so many other films that they're working on right now, and Marvel isn't going to do that rebooted X-Men movie for at least a couple more years. Short term, the MCU Fantastic Four reboot movie has a little bit of priority over that, but that as well is also still a few years away, so it's going to be a while before we see those characters. Black Panther 2 is just the first MCU movie that people are pointing to as having the first legit big X-Men characters show up. Let me know in the comments, though, who you want to play some of those big new X-Men characters. Like, who do you want to play Storm in the MCU, and where do you want to see her show up first? Last big thing is what's going on with Disney Plus and them releasing some of these movies video on demand. Will Marvel just keep delaying their movies, or will they just drop them on Disney Plus video on demand? Originally, New Mutants was supposed to come out in August, but right now, in major cities, they've actually had to re-close theaters, so it's possible at this big Comic-Con panel that they're doing for New Mutants next week that they could announce that they're releasing the movie video on demand. I think everyone's just getting really tired of waiting and they just want to see some brand new content. Like, just give us something new. We've been watching all the old stuff over and over again. Don't worry, whatever they end up releasing in terms of trailers next week at Comic-Con, of course I'll do a video for it. There will be big Marvel stuff happening separate from Comic-Con later this year too. While you wait for everything, click here for my brand new Spider-Man 3 Tom Holland video, and click here for my brand new Venom 2 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.